The first thing you learn when you injure a leg at my age is how quickly a house changes shape. The hallway becomes longer. The stairs become dangerous. Even the short walk to the bathroom starts to feel like a negotiation with your own body. 3 weeks earlier, I had slipped on the back steps while watering the plants. Nothing dramatic. Just a bad angle and a sharp crack that the doctor called a clean fracture. He said it like that was supposed to be comforting. My son Daniel insisted I stay in the downstairs bedroom while my leg healed. He and his wife Melissa already lived with me. The house had been large enough for all of us, and at the time it felt natural to let them stay after their rent kept rising every year. At first it seemed like a good arrangement. But injury has a way of changing the temperature of a household. That morning the pain in my leg had been particularly stubborn. The dull ache had settled into my hip and refused to move. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, trying to judge the distance to the hallway. Melissa was in the kitchen. I could hear cabinets opening, dishes shifting, the small sounds of someone moving through their routine. "Melissa," I called. She appeared in the doorway a moment later, holding her phone.
"Yes."
"I need a little help getting to the bathroom," I said. It wasn't a large request. Just a steady arm for balance. She stared at me for a second like I had asked something unreasonable. Then her face tightened. "Your arms still work," she said. I thought maybe I had misunderstood. "What? Crawl there yourself," she snapped. "You useless old woman." The words landed so abruptly that for a moment I wasn't sure what had happened. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table behind her. I could see him over her shoulder. He didn't move. Didn't speak. He looked down at his coffee like the steam rising from it required his full attention. Something in my chest tightened, though it wasn't anger at first. It was recognition, the kind that comes when something you've suspected quietly for a long time finally says its name out loud. I nodded once. "All right," I said. Melissa shrugged and disappeared back into the kitchen. Daniel remained exactly where he was. I placed my hands on the edge of the bed and pushed myself upright. The pain in my leg flared immediately, sharp and bright. I steadied myself against the dresser and began the slow process of moving forward. The hallway did feel longer than usual. Each step required calculation, weight on the good leg, brace with the wall, breathe through the ache. No one came to help. When I reached the bathroom door, I paused for a moment, letting the pain settle. Then I finished the trip alone. Afterward I returned to the bedroom and closed the door quietly. The house continued its morning rhythm outside, running water, the low hum of the television, Melissa's voice speaking sharply about something on the phone. For a long time I sat on the edge of the bed. People like to think betrayal arrives as something dramatic, raised voices, clear arguments. Often it arrives quietly, a small humiliation, a silence where someone should have spoken. I looked around the room slowly. The dresser was mine. The bed was mine. The house itself, every wall and window belonged to me. And yet, somehow I had been made to feel like a guest in it. Not suddenly. Gradually, over the years Daniel and Melissa had taken on more of the daily decisions. Paying certain bills, handling small repairs, speaking for me in conversations where my voice might have been inconvenient. I had allowed it. It had felt easier. That afternoon, when the house grew quiet, I reached for my phone. The number was still saved under a simple name. Martin. He had been my lawyer for almost 20 years. He answered on the second ring. "Well," he said warmly, "it's been a while." "Yes," I replied. "I think it's time we reviewed a few things." I explained the situation carefully. Not emotionally. Just the facts. The ownership of the house. The informal arrangement Daniel and Melissa had lived under. The accounts I had gradually allowed Daniel to help manage. Martin listened without interrupting. Finally he said, "I'll need to come by with some documents." "When?" "Soon," he said. It sounds like soon would be wise. 3 days passed quietly. Daniel and Melissa continued their routines as though nothing had shifted. Melissa barely spoke to me, Daniel kept conversations short and practical. Neither asked about the phone calls I had made. On the third morning, a black car pulled into the driveway. Daniel looked through the front window. "Are you expecting someone?" he asked. "Yes," I said. A few minutes later, Martin stepped inside with a leather folder under his arm. Another man followed him, someone from his office. They greeted me politely before taking seats at the dining table. Melissa crossed her arms. "What's going on?" Martin opened the folder and removed several papers. "My client asked me to review the property and financial arrangements concerning this residence," he said calmly. Daniel frowned. "What arrangements?" Martin slid the first document across the table. "As it stands, the house is solely owned by my client. Your residence here has been permitted informally." Melissa let out a small laugh. "Permitted?" Martin didn't react. "My client has decided to formalize new boundaries regarding the property and associated accounts." The room grew very quiet. Daniel looked at me. "Mom." I met his eyes but didn't speak. Martin continued explaining the documents, timelines, access changes, the transition of financial authority back to me. Nothing dramatic, just clear, legal language. By the time he finished, Daniel's face had gone pale. Melissa looked stunned. "You're serious?" she said. I nodded once. Yes. No anger, no raised voices, just the sound of paper sliding back into the folder. After Martin left, the house felt strangely larger. That evening I sat alone in the living room, listening to the familiar creak of the floorboards. The silence was different now. Heavier, perhaps, but no longer humiliating. For the first time in a long while, the house felt like it belonged to me again. Whether it would ever feel like a home again was something I hadn't decided yet.